Hello there everyone, welcome back to a brand new video. Today I'm going to talk about 007 First Light. This is a bold reimagining of the James Bond universe or franchise, diving deep into the origins of the world's most iconic spy. Obviously developed by IO Interactive, the studio behind the acclaimed Hitman series. This game marks a fresh start for Bond and gaming, with a narrative-driven single-player experience set before he earns his legendary 00 status. So obviously IO Interactive made the Hitman series. I haven't played those games yet, but I've heard that they're pretty interesting. And obviously, if a game studio already makes like spy-inspired video games, they're perfect for a James Bond, right? So there we go. Alright, so 007 First Light tells the untold story of a young James Bond, aged 26, navigating his first major mission as an MI6 agent. The game explores Bond's pre-007 life, including the trauma of losing his parents in a ski accident, a nod to Ian Fleming's original backstory, which is really interesting, his reckless ambition and raw talent, which haven't yet been refined into the suave professionalism we associate with the character. Obviously, a pivotal mission that will determine whether he earns his license to kill and becomes a full-fledged 00 agent. This origin story is unique in it that it doesn't really rely on existing film canon, allowing IO Interactive to craft a fresh, emotional grounded take on Bond's evolution, which is really interesting. Obviously, his reckless ambition and, like I already said, his raw talent, because obviously in the films he's much more professional, because I've seen the two films. I guess I've seen multiple 007 films, but now I think a few weeks ago I actually watched, or a few months ago, yeah, I think it was pretty much like 2 months ago or something along those lines, I watched 007 Doctor No, so the first film, which I thought was kinda okay. Like, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like the greatest thing alive. I really liked the introduction, right? And also the, I guess, the opening, where obviously we have the gun and the blood and stuff like that, and a really nice obviously introduction and opening. But it was rather 60s-ish vibe, which, okay, understandable, right? It was made in the 60s. But yeah, no, I thought it was alright. Then I watched 007 on Her Majesty's Secret Service, along those lines, and I really liked that film. I think that is pretty much my favorite 007 film. Like, I watched it and I really enjoyed it. I was totally into it. Like, I really liked the area, I guess the mountains and the snow and stuff like that. Some things were kind of, fair enough. Like, I think in the film they punched a woman, which wasn't really that, I think you can't do that right now, obviously, in these times. But back in the day, back in the obviously also the 60s, that was still allowed. But yeah, I think that film was rather really enjoyable. And yes, obviously I've watched the 007 James Bond films with obviously Daniel Craig. I haven't seen the latest one, so No Time to Die I haven't seen yet, but obviously like Casino Royale 2, I have seen that one a while ago. But yes, I think 007 is a really interesting character. So there we go. The game features a mix of reimagined classics and compelling new faces. So we have James Bond, young MI6 recruit on his first mission, played by Patrick Gibson. M, head of MI6, guiding Bond's path, played by Priyanka Burfor. I think Q, yeah, tech expert and field support. Alistair Mackenzie plays this character. Miss Moneypenny, MI6, I think Lazen, early career confident, played by Kira Lester. Greenway, Bond's mentor, ex-00 agent Lenny James. Miss Roth, original character, mysterious ally, played by Naomi Nakai. Greenway in particular plays a crucial role as a mentor figure, similar to Mallory in Skyfall, but with a deeper connection to the 00 program, having once been part of it himself. So developers and creative vision. Studio IO Interactive, director Hakan Habrak, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Composer The Flight. Engine Glacier, same as Hitman 3. Platforms, obviously Nintendo Switch 2, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series XS, and Windows. Release date 27th of March 2026, so next year. IO Interactive pitched the game to Eon Productions while wrapping up Hitman 3, aiming to explore Bond's humanity and vulnerability rather than just his bravado, I think. So yeah, that's really interesting. This isn't just another Bond game, it's a character study wrapped in espionage and action, obviously, which is really rather intriguing. So, obviously, 007 First Light is a gritty origin story that follows a 26-year-old James Bond fresh out of Royal Air Force and not yet an IO agent, or 00 agent, sorry. The game begins with Bond entering MI6 as a promising but impulsive recruit. He's tasked with a high-stakes mission that will determine whether he earns his license to kill and to coveted 007 designation, yeah. Identity and transformation. Bond is still discovering who he is. He's charming but unrefined, brave but reckless. The game explores how he learns to channel his instincts into becoming a world-class spy, which is rather very interesting. So, obviously, trust and betrayal. Bond must navigate a world of espionage where allies may be enemies and truth is always in question. Obviously, we also have technology and control. The story reflects modern I think modern I think angsties or whatever, like being scared around AI, surveillance, and digital warfare. Bond faces threats not just from bullets but from information itself. Bond's mentor Greenway, played by Lenny James, is a former 00 agent who guides him through the moral and tactical challenges of spycraft. Bond's first mission involves tracking a rogue MI6 operative and uncovering a conspiracy involving AI-driven espionage and global data manipulation. Along the way, Bond interacts with younger versions of M, Q, and Moneypenny. Moneypenny, I'm not quite sure who that is, but it's a rather interesting name, who help shape his evolution into the agent we know. So IO Interactive drew from a rich mix of influences to craft First Light. Obviously, Ian Fleming's novels, the game returns to the literary Bond, emphasizing physiological depth and realism. Details like Bond's scarred cheek and orphaned childhood are pulled directly from Fleming's books. While not tied to any specific movie, the game channels the cinematic flair of the Bond franchise. Think rooftop chases, exotic locations, and explosive set pieces. It avoids the more problematic traits of past Bonds, offering a more modern and emotional grounded take. Hitman DNA, stealth improvisation, and sandbox-style missions where players choose how to approach objectives. Uncharted-style action, high-octane sequences like car chases, plane hijackings, and collapsing buildings add blockbuster energy. The game explores the impact of AI and digital warfare, reflecting current global concerns about cybersecurity and misinformation. Bond's journey mirrors our own struggle to adapt to a rapidly changing world. This isn't just a spy thriller, it's a coming-of-age story set in the shadows of global power. Okay, whether obviously this new next James Bond video game will be any good, I'm not quite sure. Like, I think it will be. Like, obviously we have a brand new origin story for James Bond, which is really nice. And obviously we also have a brand new, I guess, reboot in the works with obviously very famous people, the new James Bond film franchise. Obviously, the latest intel on the new James Bond film franchise, which is undergoing a major transformation under the new creative leadership. The next James Bond film, obviously, what we know about it is that studio and creative teams are, the studio behind it are Amazon MGM Studios after Amazon's acquisition of MGM in 2022. Obviously, which is very interesting. MGM is very interesting and very popular studio. So there we go. Screenwriter is Stephen Knight, creator of Peaky Blinders, writer of Eastern Promises, and also obviously the creator of the brand new show coming up, House of Guinness, which I'm really excited for. Obviously, I think he might make it somewhat really good. So there we go. I think he's very talented. Peaky Blinders is a great show and has some great writing. So there we go. Director is in talks, obviously Denis Villeneuve. Or Villeneuve, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Obviously he made Dune, Blade Runner 2049. He also obviously made Dune Part 2 and Arrival. And I think he might, obviously his style is iconic. His cinematography, as well, obviously with his cinematographer, will be something that might be remembered. I think that's really interesting because Denis Villeneuve has his, you already know which films are his because he made them, right? And obviously how they look. And I think that's really nice. Producers are Amy Pascal and David Heyman. Executive producer is Tanya Lapointe, I think. This marks Amazon's first major creative push with the Bond IP, and they're aiming for a bold, artistical, ambitious reboot. I think the new film is expected to obviously be shift toward philosophical gravitas and epic skill, thanks to Villeneuve's cinematic style, explores moral complex storytelling with Knight's signature atmospheric writing, move away from the gritty realism of Daniel Craig's era, possibly embracing a more stylized, cerebral Bond. Amazon's CEO Andy Jassy has described this as a high-profile return and a bold new chapter for the franchise. Who will be the next Bond? Obviously, there have been lots of talks. As of now, no official casting has been confirmed for the next live-action James Bond. However, speculation continues around a couple of actors. Some of them, I get it, but some of them, I think, I'm not quite sure, right? Some of them might do it, but I'm not quite sure. Obviously, we have the first one, which is Aaron Taylor Johnson. Yes, I get it, and yes, I understand why people want him. He's British too, and he's good looking. But the thing is, I'm not quite sure. I think he said in a couple of interviews that he might be down, but that he doesn't really want it or something like that. I'm not quite sure. The next one is Idris Elba. He might be able to do it, but yeah, he's gotten a bit old. I think a black James Bond would be interesting, to say the least. But I'm not quite sure. I don't know. I'm not a big James Bond fan or 007 fan, but I think some of these castings might be fantastic. Others might be better for other roles, right? We have Henry Cavill. Yes, I see why, but obviously, I think I'm not quite sure. Obviously, he's also now making a Highlander, which is another bold project, right? And Henry Cavill, I think he has the looks for it, but I think some people might complain about it. James Norton, don't know this one, but I think he's rather okay looking and not really that well known. Obviously, that's great thing about Bond. Maybe you can just introduce the new reboot with a unwell known actor, right? You have Lucien Leviscount. I'm not quite sure who he or she is, but obviously James Bond, I think, needs to be, a male, right? James Bond can't, gender swap because that's not the story of James Bond, right? I've heard a couple of complaints about that and a couple complaints about one of my friends who likes James Bond in a way, but that's really interesting. Meanwhile, Patrick Gibson has been confirmed as the voice of Bond in the upcoming 007 First Light video game, but this is not tied to the film franchise, like I said. No official release date has been announced yet. The project is still in early development with script writing and directorial negotiations underway. Obviously, unlike previous Bond films, this reboot is not based on any existing movie or book, while likely redefined character for a new generation could launch a new trilogy echoing the success of Craig's 5-film arc. With Villeneuve's visual mastery and Knight's narrative depth, this could be the most artistically daring Bond film to date. I think that's the most exciting thing about it all. I hope it will not release on streaming, or I guess only on streaming. I hope this will get a theatrical release, and we all love big bold films, right? Especially the ones from Denis Villeneuve. So there we go. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you enjoyed this video. This was a rather interesting video because I'm not a huge fan of 007, but I think as a franchise it's still very important to talk about, and I'm just a big film fan. I just love franchises that have films around them, have video games around them, and that's why I love making videos. So there we go. I guess it's just a fascinating little interesting video, right? Talking about James Bond. But obviously, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any thoughts, reactions, or meanings that you want to share with me, let them know in the comment section below, and I will check you later. Goodbye.